everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews. Today we're doing another Hong Kong content review talking about Eureka's new lineup for Knockabout, the Sammo Hung directed film, the latest in the Sammo Hung Eureka kind of marathon, the kind of renaissance kind of thing, as you would say recently. The first introduction to Yuen Biao as a main leading man. Also a very significant film and another kind of knockout park in terms of edition, in terms of a kind of release for Eureka. They are just nailing it recently with some of these fantastic editions. This is another fantastic release from Eureka as well. I love the brand new artwork design, looks really nice. And I'll show them all there. There's the original poster, there we go. And you get a really kind of fantastic booklet which kind of dives into kind of the early days of the kind of making of some of these films and kind of behind the scenes and how significant this film was to not only Sammo Hung's kind of like, you know, directing kind of lineup and his talents with Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, but also the introduction to Yuen Biao as a main first leading man in his first proper kind of Golden Harvest film, which is a very significant film called Policies of the Dragon Trio. And Yuen Biao recently is kind of literally on fire with all of his movies, from like his kind of brief cameo within Warriors 2 and The Prodigal Son and Zulu Warriors and some of the other kind of films during the early times, during the early 70s, where he was kind of really making a name for himself. So let's dive into this proper kick-ass movie that is Knockabout. Knockabout was released in 1979. This was 1 year after he did Warriors 2, directed by Sammo Hung, the man, the myth, the legends, the guy that's literally always on my channel, the guy I'm always reviewing all of his movies for, whether he's directing, whether he's starring in. Sammo Hung is literally one of the defining aspects of Hong Kong cinema, and I love it. And the fact that I'm still seeing more of his movies, the fact that I'm seeing these fantastic releases from Eureka that are just pumping out brand new 2K, 4K scans of these really old movies that I would never have had access to in terms of now to print DVD or a crappy kind of, you know, dub version kind of thing. Seeing these films in the proper format, the proper kind of, you know, aspect ratios and the uncut versions as well, which is always very important, and getting a real sense of history behind some of these titles. Knockabout is no different to that kind of lineup, and to see an evolution from his first film he did with Iron Fisted Monk, which is a bit of a so-and-so film, he has literally been on fire recently with some of these very early kind of late 70s, early 80s type movies, and really demonstrating how good of a powerhouse of a director, performer, stunt coordinator, writer, and just a really good kind of friend to his kind of, you know, his crew. And, you know, the fact that this film is a first leading man performance from Yuen Biao is really kind of demonstrating how good director Sammo Hung really is. He's a bit more of a backseat in this one. He kind of plays more into the kind of the third act of the film, similar to what he did with I think Prodigal Son as well. He's more of a kind of a supporting role character, but he's really kind of demonstrating how good he is on talent. The fact that he's really supporting his friend, his kind of his brother in the kind of the Peking opera performances, and really kind of showing to Golden Harvest, hey look, this guy can do some really cool stuff. And this film is a good example of, you know, helping my friend out and really kind of showcasing his talents on screen. Yuen Biao is very well known for his kind of acrobatic type skills, his backflips, his kind of, you know, very flexible kind of, you know, kick kind of boxing kind of moves in the sense. He's got charm, he's got wit, he's kind of like, you know, a very kind of fun guy to kind of, you know, be on screen. He's a very likable presence kind of thing as well. So just a really great sense of kind of chemistry and talent, and knowing his strengths and knowing how to use them and put them to the test. This film has so much packed into it. I think Sammo Hung worked him to death, literally. Some of these insane kind of one takes and these, you know, amount of backflips and training montage sequences, and the amount of fight sequences are in this film is absolutely insane and astonishing to watch. And I can really tell he had a lot of fun making this, and definitely probably worked him to the bone to, hey look, this is your first proper film. You know, he'd done a bit of work before this, obviously, with behind the scenes and kind of being the stuntman, all that kind of stuff. I think he was in one of the Bruce Lee movies as well, and obviously did a few small cameos in random movies like Warriors 2. I think he played one of the kind of assassin villain characters. But to kind of get a really main leading role within a sort of comedy film as well, comedy action, and then subverting expectations toward the middle act, third act of the film. This film is Sammo Hung to a T, and going into this film, I didn't know what to expect. I thought this was going to be a straight up Sammo Hung comedy, and usually when I get Sammo Hung comedies, I never know what I'm really going to get, what type of film it's going to be, and pleasantly surprised. This is pretty goddamn funny. You know, these two characters are con man. You've got Yuen Biao's character, and then you've got his brother, who are going around basically going from town to town, and they're doing these kind of massive con artist jobs. You've also got Karl Maka in the film playing Captain Baldy as the kind of very suspicious kind of, well, police constable with the kind of the rare pistol, doing these kind of like outrageous kind of, you know, facial expressions and moves and postures. It's definitely a comedy to its core for the most of the film, and it's very funny. It's actually quite entertaining. The first opening act kind of con sequence is very well done, very well structured. The comedy is really kind of hitting the right tone. The chemistry is fantastic as well between all the cast, especially the brother aspect and the kind of, you know, cheating each other a little bit kind of thing in terms of the coins. There's some interesting gambling sequences. Yeah, this is fun. An ensemble cast, full of really interesting characters, and for the good portion of the film, this is a straight up comedy, and it's very well handled. It's very funny. There's some great sequences. I started to get a bit worried as the film went along, because thinking, okay, this is good, I'm liking this, but what's the point of this? And the one thing that me and my friend have kind of learned as we've gone along, especially with these early kind of Hong Kong movies, Golden Harvest one, especially with a Dreadnought as well, is that there's always a subversive expectation. Pulling the rug out, doing something you wouldn't really expect, and doing a twist or a turn or a changing kind of tone drastically, that kind of really makes the film something quite special. And, you know, for a good portion of it, it is a straight up comedy. It is doing these kind of skits and kind of con jobs, and you've got some wacky kind of characters that come into it. I love the kind of the setup in the kind of first initial part where they kind of come across an old master kind of thing. They're trying to con artist him. Doesn't quite work out. He's known as the Old Fox. And they kind of, you know, beg for his kind of teachings because, hey, look, we want to learn the Kung Fu, we want to learn his skill sets, because if we can learn it, not because we can do good things, because we can basically con more people or demonstrate how good we are. They've all got some of his skill set already, but there's a really great sequence where they're kind of going into town, they're kind of demonstrating like, oh, these are ordinary people. We can take on ordinary people, you know, we are less than ordinary kind of thing. And they take them on, and, you know, they kind of demand the coin. Reason they do it for a kind of very greedy, self-profiting kind of, you know, motivation. And they kind of, you know, they like the good deed, but they want to make a little bit of money off it, and they kind of go back to various kind of places or characters they have gone to before and kind of demonstrate how good a skill set they are. And to be fair, they've really kind of trained, and I like the process they've kind of gone about it. Once again, within Sammo Hung kind of fashion, demonstrating different styles of kind of fighting. Wing Chun is definitely back in this one as well. I think there's a little bit of snake and crane kind of movement. There's different types of fight skills and skill sets within the film, which I think is quite interesting. There's the monkey style fights, which is quite amusing and quite funny. Definitely got a little bit of that kind of, you know, Fearless Hyena, Jackie Chan, Drunken Master Fearless Hyena, which definitely you can tell those movies become the blueprint within a typical kind of, you know, late Shaw Brothers, you know, Golden Harvest type setup, in the sense, you know, hey, comedy movie, great leading performance, wacky villains, high stakes, but just a really great experience. I think Drunken Master definitely kind of put these ideas on the map, and this one's no different for sure. The film definitely changes itself up towards the middle act and gets really kind of dark and really kind of serious out of nowhere, but it is naturally built up. There is a nice kind of foreshadow, and there is a kind of a villainous twist which has high stakes, which is quite surprising, and it's great motivation for revenge, as they always are. Of course, if you know a Hong Kong movie, any Hong Kong movie, there's always going to be a montage sequence, there's always going to be a revenge sequence, and they play it really well. It is a really good job at adding something new to the formula. You know, the actual formula itself is always there, the blueprint is always there within all these kind of Hong Kong movies for most of them, and it's just kind of a case of adding your own flavour to it, adding your own kind of substance. What are you telling, what are you showing? And this is something that I kind of found a bit disconnect with some of the Jimmy Wong Yu movies in my experience, was, you know, he kind of just got there towards the end of the third act and he just kind of became the invincible Terminator, and I didn't think any of the kind of the setup or the kind of the character bodywork was interesting or kind of, you know, naturally flowing within the story. It was just kind of padding to get to him to do the things he needed to do, which granted is cool and badass, and there's some good stuff in those films, but I'm always going to be on board with something like this, which has much more of a sense of humour, much more of an identity and a style. Sammo Hung has such a really great sense of kind of, you know, editing and pacing, and just, you know, comedy timing and just pushing your body to the goddamn limit. This film has so much in it in terms of the kind of the fight sequences, in terms of, you know, physical work. It's definitely putting kind of Jackie Chan Fearless Hyena to a good level in that sense. You know, there's definitely something to prove in this film in terms of just not just performances and comedy, but, you know, physical talent and, you know, and also just Sammo Hung proving himself to be a really capable, strong director that really knows how to deliver a really solid film. And looking at the booklet and checking out some of the extras as well, really kind of dives into those kind of behind the scenes. And I really like the kind of initial second act twist leading into the third act. You've got some great kind of sequences with Sammo Hung and Yuen Biao doing a skipping rope, which is great. Some insane backflips and kind of really kind of, you know, crucial, really kind of mean-spirited kind of training, which is also quite funny, amusing kind of sense. Some slapstick comedy, as you would expect, but just funny, just funny setups, really likable, funny setups. Sammo Hung plays a kind of like a bumbling kind of, you know, character that you think he's a bit of like a homeless guy, but he's also got some other plans going on in the film as well. The villain character is just great. Some of his dialogue is just on point. If I'm going to watch a Hong Kong movie, whether it's a Shaw Brothers, whether it's you know, Golden Harvest movie, if I don't get an excellent, or at least two really great kind of comeback lines, then I'm disappointed. And I got two really strong ones in this film, which I won't say, I'll leave it for the film itself. You know which ones they are, but I love a villain comeback line and just kind of being so savage and so awesomely evil. It's just great. Nothing ever beats, you know, Hand Over Your Life from Shaolin Wooden Men. Nothing's gonna ever be that for me personally. The actor who plays the old fox is also really good as well in the film. He's definitely got the kind of presence, he's got the skill sets to kind of demonstrate how kind of skillful he is, how strong he is. And I like the kind of initial kind of teamwork we have to do, the kind of like the initial kind of, we have to separate him, we have to weaken him down. And I love the consistency of the moves. There's plenty of foreshadowing in this film. There's an early bit when he kind of taking on two enemies, when the two brothers and the old fox are taking on two old rivals kind of thing. You know, there's some pretty significant key moves and kind of, you know, skill sets that has been demonstrated quite a few times as foreshadows for later on in the third act, where it needs to be kind of like recognized and learned and show how crucial, how deadly these skill sets are. It's almost like a WWE move in a sense. You know, you've got a signature move, like the tombstone, for instance, and when you know it's coming, you know shit's going to go down, and you know how crucial these kind of moments are. So yeah, Knockabout is another kind of slam dunk for Eureka. Great lineup recently, and I'm really enjoying what they're pumping out. They're really diving deep into the kind of the Golden Harvest kind of vaults, the Fortune Star vaults, and they're really pumping out these are really probably unknown, for mostly kind of, you know, hidden gem movies in a sense. Films that, like myself, never would have watched unless I got like an ultra rare DVD or kind of like access to something that is not particularly great quality. Nice to see these films properly on the proper kind of 2K, 4K scans, packed full of extras, premium edition, and to kind of get more insight into some of these actors and directors and just kind of see an evolution of their kind of career as they go on and how much work and dedication goes into these films. You know, I was initially a bit worried at the start because, you know, comedies can go on a bit too long or they can get a bit, you know, tiresome after a while. But no, once again, Sammo Hung proves that he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to pace these films and, you know, subvert expectations, put a few kind of twists and turns, deliver a fantastic sense of action, fight sequences, demonstrate how good performances these are, great sense of comedy, and just an all-round really kick-ass fun film to watch. Knockabout was another surprise for me and definitely earns a place in my collection for sure. So happy I enjoyed this film so much. I'm really happy about that. So that's been my review for Knockabout. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. What are your thoughts and opinions on the film itself? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts and opinions on the recent kind of Eureka lineup? They've been really kind of knocking out of the park. So in the meantime, guys, it's been Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.